And the possessor of the 6 attributes, Brahma, the world's preceptor, knowing of the anxiety of the Rishi Dwapayana, came in person to the place where the latter was for gratifying the saint and benefiting the people. And when Vyasa, surrounded by all the tribes of Munis, saw him, he was surprised, and standing with joined palms, he bowed and ordered a seat to be brought. And Vyasa, having gone round him who is called Hiranyagarbha, seated on that distinguished seat, stood near it, and being commanded by Brahma Parameshthai, he sat down near the seat, full of affection and smiling in joy. Then the greatly glorious Vyasa, addressing Brahma Parameshthai, said, O divine Brahma, by me a poem hath been composed which is greatly respected. The mystery of the Veda and what other subjects have been explained by me. The various rituals of the Upanishads with the Angas, the compilation of the Puranas and history formed by me and named after the 3 divisions of time, past, present and future. The determination of the nature of decay, fear, disease, existence and non-existence, a description of creeds and of the various modes of life, rule for the 4 castes and the import of all the Puranas, an account of asceticism and of the duties of a religious student, the dimensions of the sun and moon, the planets, constellations and stars, together with the duration of the 4 ages, the Rik, Sama and Yajur, Vedas, also the Adhyatma, the sciences called Nyaya, orthography and treatment of diseases, charity and Pasipatadharma, birth, celestial and human, for particular purposes. Also a description of places of pilgrimage and other holy places of rivers, mountains, forests, the ocean, of heavenly cities and the kulpas, the art of war, the different kinds of nations and languages, the nature of the manners of the people, and the all-pervading spirit. All these have been represented, but after all no writer of this work is to be found on earth. Brahma said, I esteem thee for thy knowledge of divine mysteries, before the whole body of celebrated Munis distinguished for the sanctity of their lives. I know thou hast revealed the divine word, even from its first utterance, in the language of truth. Thou hast called thy present work a poem, wherefore it shall be a poem. There shall be no poets whose works may equal the descriptions of this poem, even as the 3 other modes called ashrama are ever unequal in merit to the domestic ashrama. Ganesa be thought of, O Muni, for the purpose of writing the poem. Sati said. Brahma, having thus spoken to Vyasa, retired to his own abode. Then Vyasa began to call to mind Ganesa. Ganesa, obviator of obstacles, ready to fulfill the desires of his votaries, was no sooner thought of than he repaired to the place where Vyasa was seated. And when he had been saluted and was seated, Vyasa addressed him thus, O guide of the Ganas, thou the writer of the Bharata which I have formed in my imagination, and which I am about to repeat. Ganesa, upon hearing this address, thus answered, I will become the writer of thy work, provided my pen do not for a moment cease writing. And Vyasa said unto that divinity, Wherever there be anything thou dost not comprehend, cease to continue writing. Ganesa, having signified his assent, by repeating the word Om, proceeded to write, and Vyasa began, and by way of diversion, he knit the knots of composition exceeding close, by doing which, he dictated this work according to his engagement. I am, continued Sati, acquainted with 8,800 verses, and so is Sukha, and perhaps Sanjaya. From the mysteriousness of their meaning, O Muni, no one is able to this day to penetrate those closely knit difficult shlokas. Even the omniscient Ganesa took a moment to consider, while Vyasa, however, continued to compose other verses in great abundance. The wisdom of this work, like unto an instrument of applying collyrium, hath opened the eyes of the inquisitive world blinded by the darkness of ignorance. As the sun dispelleth the darkness, so doth the Bharata by its discourses on religion, profit, pleasure and final release, dispel the ignorance of men. As the full moon by its mild light expandeth the buds of the water lily, So this Purana, by exposing the light of the Smriti, hath expanded the human intellect. By the lamp of history, which destroyeth the darkness of ignorance, the whole mansion of nature is properly and completely illuminated. This work is a tree, of which the chapter of contents is the seed. The divisions called Pauloma and Astika are the root. The part called Sambhava is the trunk. The books called Sava and Aranya are the roosting perches. The books called Arani is the knitting knots. The books called Varata and Udyoga the pith. The book named Bhishma the main branch. The book called Drona the leaves. The book called Karna the fair flowers. The book named Salya their sweet smell. The books entitled Stri and Aishika the refreshing shade. The book called Santi the mighty fruit. The book called Aswamedha the immortal sap. The denominated Asramavasika, the spot where it groweth. And the book called Mausala is an epitome of the Vedas and held in great respect by the virtuous Brahmanas. The tree of the Bharata, inexhaustible to mankind as the clouds, shall be as a source of livelihood to all distinguished poets. Sati continued, I will now speak of the undying flowery and fruitful productions of this tree, possessed of pure and pleasant taste, and not to be destroyed even by the immortals. Formerly, the spirited and virtuous Krishnadvapayana, by the injunctions of Bhishma, the wise son of Ganga and of his own mother, became the father of 3 boys who were like the 3 fires by the 2 wives of Vichitravirya, and having thus raised up Dhritarashtra, Pandu and Vidura, he returned to his recluse abode to prosecute his religious exercise. It was not till after these were born, grown up, and departed on the supreme journey, that the great Rishi Vyasa published the Bharata in this region of mankind, when being solicited by Janamejaya and thousands of Brahmanas, he instructed his disciple, Vaisampayana, who was seated near him, and he, sitting together with the Sadasyas, recited the Bharata during the intervals of the ceremonies of the sacrifice, being repeatedly urged to proceed. Vyasa hath fully represented the greatness of the house of Kuru, the virtuous principles of Gandhari, the wisdom of Vidura, and the constancy of Kunti. The noble Rishi hath also described the divinity of Vasudeva, the rectitude of the sons of Pandu, and the evil practices of the sons and partisans of Dhritarashtra. Vyasa executed the compilation of the Bharata, exclusive of the episodes originally in 24,000 verses, and so much only is called by the learned as the Bharata. Afterwards, he composed an epitome in 150 verses, consisting of the introduction with the chapter of contents. This he first taught to his son Sukha, and afterwards he gave it to others of his disciples who were possessed of the same qualifications. After that he executed another compilation consisting of 600,000 verses. Of those 300,000 are known in the world of the Devas, 1,500,000 in the world of the Pitris, 1,400,000 among the Gandharvas, and 100,000 in the regions of mankind. Narada recited them to the Devas, Devala to the Pitris, and Sukha published them to the Gandharvas, Yakshas and Rakshasas, and in this world they were recited by Vaisampayana, one of the disciples of Vyasa, a man of just principles and the first among all those acquainted with the Vedas. Know that I, Sati, have also repeated 100,000 verses.